Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of the Decentering Men series. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how men use their man caves to look at corn. But first, I want to talk about how the median income for a man in the United States is actually about $38,000. A lot of guys, they might make more than this, maybe $50 to even $80,000, but most of those guys who are kind of average to middle class, they are still looking for a woman to financially contribute to his lifestyle. So what they will do is a lot of times these guys will get into a relationship or they'll start off providing for the woman. They'll start off wooing you and kind of like buying you things or taking you on these romantic dates in order to get you emotionally attached to him and having all of these feelings of love for him. And then as you get deeper into the relationship, a lot of men will gradually start to pull back and they'll say, well, you're already with me, right? Like, don't you love me? Or, if you really loved me, you would have no problem paying 50-50, or you would have no problem contributing to upping my lifestyle. So a lot of women will fall for this and they'll be like, well, yeah, we've been together 5 years, we're engaged now or whatever. Or even after the marriage, a lot of guys will say, hey, like, I need your help. Like, can you help me? Because you love me and you've married me. So this whole concept of, oh, you have to vet a man and choose better. Well, there really is no such thing as choosing better, because how can you choose? The only thing you're choosing better is you're choosing a better liar. You're choosing a better cheater. You're choosing a guy who's better at sneaking. You're choosing a guy who's better at manipulating. There is no way for you to predict how a man will behave. The best choice is actually for you to choose yourself and decenter men. When I say decenter men, this is not supposed to be some sort of hateful content or anything like that, but I do want women to make informed decisions. So a lot of men, though, they will get you into these marriages, and then as soon as you're married or engaged or something, then suddenly he will be like, hey, I want to get a house for us. Is there a way you can contribute money to that? And sometimes guys, they will ask you for a few $1,000s to contribute to the down payment of a house. And a lot of guys, especially middle class guys or suburban guys, they will want to have kind of a bigger house, right? They don't want a 2-bedroom house. They want like a 4-bedroom house, 5-bedroom house. And a lot of these guys want to have a man cave. But have you ever noticed how a lot of guys want a man cave, but a woman cave is not a thing? And a lot of times guys want a man cave so that they can use it as an escape. They want to escape household duties. They're using it to escape the children and to escape their parenting duties. And they're using it so they can look at corn in peace. Another thing that guys will use as an escape is work, their workplace. How many of you ladies, I'm sure there are thousands of ladies here on this channel, on the Exoticals United channel, who have had married men at work hitting on you, flirting with you, buying you lunch, taking you out to lunch, sending you kind of like flirty emails or text messages, or asking for your phone number, looking at you, staring at you, looking at your butt when you're walking by, looking at your boobs when you're in the office. I know that I've had this happen to me plenty of times. So a lot of men will also use their workplace as an escape, and they'll be flirting with other women. They'll be pursuing other women. A part of the reason why a lot of men like having high-level jobs, it's not just for money. It's also to put themselves in a higher social position than women. I know that for me, the guys who have tended to hit on me the most at jobs, they tend to be the CFOs, the doctors, the managers, the guys who are on a higher level. Sometimes a janitor or whoever may try to make his pass, but for the most part, a lot of men like to go to these higher level jobs, not just for money, but also for the social status and for how they can position themselves in the eyes of women. Because for a man who maybe he's not conventionally attractive, or maybe he's not rich, or maybe he lacks the qualities to attract women just in his everyday life walking down the street, so because he can't attract women that way, a lot of men will actually use the workplace and their social status in the office as their main method of attracting a woman. And they will be like, hey, if only a woman could see, in their minds, a lot of these guys are thinking, hey, if a woman can see my work ethic, or, the fact that I'm high up in the office, or the fact that I'm a manager, that is going to make me appear more attractive to women in the office. Most companies have a pretty girl working somewhere in the building, or they have a pretty girl who's working a temp job as a contractor, or, a lot of guys, they're going to be able to find a pretty girl in the office. This channel is filled with the women who are the pretty girls in the office. So, a lot of guys will actually use their jobs as a place of escape. And when I say they use it as a place of escape, they're using it as a place of emotional escape. They're using it as a place of sexual escape because they will be talking to Tiffany at work, and Tiffany, she looks cute with her little outfits on or whatever, and then maybe Tiffany at work is flirting with Daquan, your husband. And then that man is going to come home and go into his man cave, and he's going to be fantasizing about Tiffany. He is going to be looking forward to seeing Tiffany the next day at work. He is going to sometimes, in some cases, even be texting Tiffany. And don't even get me started on men who are kind of upper middle class men who go on these work trips and these business trips, because that is already a given. The majority of the time, guys who are going on these work trips, they are absolutely interacting with women, whether it's women from their company, women from other companies, or women that they purchase or pay to, be escorts or whatever. So, this whole concept of marriage making you more secure in your relationship, or marriage having more meaning, or meaning that, like, oh, he's going to be faithful now, he's going to be loyal now, he's going to put me first. He may put you first, but it doesn't mean he's going to make you the only one. And this is what a lot of women are beginning to understand, is the fact that just because a guy is married, that doesn't stop him, on average, that doesn't stop him from looking at corn, being addicted to it, wanting to have a man cave to escape his parental duties, to escape his domestic duties. A lot of guys have man caves so that they can actually escape talking to you. They don't even want to talk to you until it's time to have sex. They'll be like, oh, I have to watch the football game. The football game's like 4 hours, or I have to watch the baseball game, or I have to watch XYZ Netflix show. And notice how a lot of times when guys are watching these things, they want to watch these things by themselves. They'll be like, oh no, you don't have to watch it with me. They won't even invite their wives or girlfriends to watch these shows and stuff with him. You know why? Because he is escaping from you emotionally. He is escaping from you and not being emotionally available. He wants to be by himself. And I'm not saying that a guy has to be around you 24/7 in order to prove that he's emotionally available, but what you may want to do as a woman is count the amount of hours that he wants to spend alone, and then count the amount of hours that you tend to want to spend alone. Most of the time, there is a huge gap, and a lot of men are not as emotionally available as women. A lot of guys, they're not just going to say, oh, hey, let's just sit down and talk, and, let's just talk to each other and snuggle for the next 3 hours and ask each other questions or take little cute quizzes online and stuff. The average guy is not doing that. No, the average guy is like viewing love as his physical presence. That's it. So a lot of men's definition of love just means, hey, I am physically present in your life. So it's like, I'm here, ain't I? A lot of guys will even say that. They'll be like, I'm here, ain't I? And this is after that guy has, looked at other women, flirted with other women, and then you'll get mad at him. But then he'll make the excuse that, hey, the fact that I'm even physically here, that is proof of my love. So guys on average have a much lower standard of what they consider to be love. And this is why you will hear men say, I'm in love with 2 women, or I'm in love with multiple women. Well, yeah, it's because his standards of love is just, oh, I want to have sex, and, I just want to be physically present, and I want your labor. But a lot of guys are not emotionally aware enough to even realize this, and so they'll just be exposing themselves constantly. And so a lot of guys, they will use their man caves as an escape. They will use their man caves so that they can have privacy to cheat in peace, whether it's emotionally cheating on you, whether it's physically cheating on you, whether it's texting his ex or Facebooking a friend. A lot of guys will have whole entire fake accounts on Facebook or Instagram. And I've even encountered guys where they will have a whole entire separate phone so that, you can check his phone. For those of you who check a guy's phone, or you kind of like, his password, guess what? Guys will have fake phones. They'll be talking to another woman like on his tablet or something like that, or they'll have another Apple ID that they log into, and then that's how they talk to someone else. And then they'll be browsing on their computers on incognito mode so that you can't see their search history and stuff like that. So a lot of guys spend more time learning how to sneak around women or learning how to manipulate you, a lot of men spend more time on that than they do on actual hobbies. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever asked a man what his hobbies are and then asked him how many hours per week he does that hobby? Most men's hobbies are video games, porn, and then maybe pursuing women or learning how to manipulate women. Those are the top 3 hobbies of the average guy. The average guy is not going to say, oh yeah, my hobby is pottery. I do it 15 hours a week. No. Men seek power. They want social power. They want social status. A lot of men are at the bottom of the social hierarchy in many instances. Our society naturally devalues men. It devalues women as well because that's just how our society is set up. It's not set up to value people. But a lot of men, because they don't have the emotional tools to deal with being devalued and they don't know how to really value themselves, because of that, a lot of men will spend the majority of their spare time learning how to attain more power, learning how to attain control, learning how to use your love against you. A lot of men will use your emotions for him as leverage to get what he wants. He will say things like, well, since you love me, or, I want a partner who does XYZ, or like, this is what I was looking for in a wife. And then it causes the woman, it's kind of like pulling at your heartstrings and guilting you into doing what he wants, even if it's not what you want. And by the way, when I say that most men are emotionally available, what I'm talking about is his level of openness. Most men are not very open. Most men, they're not over here just opening up about everything and sharing their deepest thoughts and feelings and their childhood traumas and how they affected him. A lot of men, when they begin to share their childhood traumas, they just explode and they just go into this whole flashback, and they tend to react to traumas in anger only. A lot of men do not know how to express emotions other than anger, sexual emotions, or, they'll just be numb altogether. So a lot of times a man, he's not going to be open because a lot of men aren't even socialized that way. A lot of guys are also not socialized to apologize for whatever behaviors they did wrong and like take accountability and actually change. Most men don't even know how to change themselves. Let's think about this. Most men, they don't know how to change. They don't know how to just pick up new habits and then, become a whole new person and kind of transform themselves. But we as women, we've been socialized to know how to change 24/7. People will tell us from the time that we are young, they will be like, no, you need to change your hair, change your makeup, change your body, work out, change your diet, fix your teeth, fix all of these things. So a lot of women are much more adaptable to change because we've been socialized to have to jump through so many hoops 24/7. Whereas a lot of guys, they have been kind of raised differently. Even if you look at the way that the average woman raises a son versus how she raises a daughter, and don't even get me started on black men and how they are raised versus black women, a lot of mothers, especially if that mother herself was a pick-me, which majority of mothers are, especially if they were Generation X and came before that. But a lot of these mothers will raise their daughters to have discipline, or, they'll discipline their daughters and hold their daughters to a higher standard, physically, emotionally, academically, etc. But then when it comes to their sons, especially if he is a man of color, so a black man or he's mixed race or whatever, a lot of women, because they already feel sad for their sons, I've heard a lot of mothers say things like, well, he's already a black man, so the whole world is already going to be against him, or he's already a man of color and he comes from a poor background, so people are already going to devalue him. So I want home to be a safe space for the son, which is not a bad thing to want your son to have an emotional safe space. But I think a lot of times a lot of mothers lack discipline for the son in particular because they're trying to soothe the son from all of the pain he experiences in society. But this causes a lot of men to grow up undisciplined. This causes a lot of men to grow up already addicted to porn, addicted to processed foods, addicted to all kinds of different things, cigarettes, black and milds, weed, whatever it is. And a lot of men are really just living their lives to feed their addictions. Have you ever thought about that, ladies? A lot of men are living their lives pursuing these higher level jobs, trying to get money so that they can feed their sex addiction, so that they can feed their porn addiction. If I get more money now, I can pay for more OnlyFans girls. If I get more money now, I can sleep with more women and have access to more women's bodies. If I get more money, then I can purchase myself more material things so that I can impress women, so that they can view me as higher status. So have you ever noticed how a lot of guys spend their lives just trying to feed their addictions? They're trying to get their next fix. They want to get their next fix of sex. They want to get their next fix of porn. They want to get their next fix of emotional validation. A lot of people don't admit, when it comes to men, a lot of them do not admit that they themselves are actually addicted to external validation, or they are addicted to validation from the opposite sex. And this is because a lot of men are validation starved. This is why cheating is very common amongst men. And this is also why a lot of men will cheat if they have the opportunity to. You know why? Because most men are so deeply starved for validation and so starved and parched for affection. They are so touch starved. A lot of men, they don't grow up in a super loving environment. Like, come on, let's not be unrealistic here. Most men do not grow up in healthy, loving environments, because most people in general don't grow up in super healthy, loving environments. So that includes men. But since 75% of the patients in therapy are women, women have a much easier time working through those emotions and kind of finding healing. Whereas men, a lot of men are so cheap, no matter how much money they have. A lot of men, they don't want to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on therapists and psychiatrists, or potentially medications, like expensive medications, and staying on those things for years. Most men aren't going to spend their money on that. No, they want to spend their money on a new car. They want to spend their money on their car payments and on, getting rims or getting their car detailed and going to the car wash every single week. So a lot of guys, they don't even prioritize their own mental health. And so this causes a lot of men to be walking around and being very mentally ill. And so not having a source of validation, or not knowing how to validate yourself, not knowing how to create a peaceful home environment. Don't even get me started on how a lot of men, they don't even know how to make their house into a home. A lot of guys are over here, they're touch starved, they're validation starved. They are living in an empty apartment with a mattress on the floor, or I've even been around guys who have a 4-bedroom house and it'll be empty. No dishes, like no new dishes or cooking utensils in the kitchen, no paintings on the wall, everything is bare. Or they'll just be in a big house and they bought all of this stuff so that they can impress a woman, but then they are still in an empty 4-bedroom house. They're in an empty Rolls Royce. They're in an empty Tesla and paying those car payments, and they're reminded of their loneliness at every turn. And so this is why a lot of men will cheat if they have the opportunity to, because one woman is not actually enough to satisfy their emotional and sexual needs. And a lot of guys are so emotionally vapid and so emotionally empty. And it's almost like there's just a vacuum inside of a lot of guys, to where they want everything. They need everything. Like, they need more love. They need more sex. They need more encouragement. And this is because, number one, most of these guys did not get all of that love and encouragement and affection in childhood. And then number two, these guys are not investing money and time into finding inner healing for themselves. And then number three, misogyny and patriarchy has taught them that, if you just get a house and just get a job and a car, then you will have a wife. And so a lot of men have actually been lied to as well. And a lot of men are extremely delusional. And so imagine having no sources of validation. You're touch starved, you're affection starved, you have low self-esteem. And then you grow up and you're told that if you get A, B, and C, then you'll automatically get a woman. And then he doesn't, or maybe he does get a woman, but it's not enough because, he wasn't taught about how women are going to have flaws, or women, you're going to have to work through things in a relationship. He wasn't taught all of that part of it. He was socialized and learned about women via porn. A lot of men's main interactions with women are only through pornography. Most men are not having full-on conversations with women on a daily basis. No, not at work. Work does not count because work tends to be in more of a group setting. So any conversation a guy has at work, unless he's one of those guys who's trying to flirt with you and maybe the woman's flirting back, but most of the man's interactions with women are very, very limited. And even if a guy is flirting with a woman, how long does it take to flirt? What, 2 seconds, 2 minutes? Like, it's just one comment. So that doesn't really count as a deep, emotionally complex interaction. So the majority of the information that men even know about women comes from the internet. It comes from pornography. It comes from the media, whatever movies they're watching or whatever. And most men, they're not watching movies on average that paint a woman in a positive light or that paint a woman, as like this complex type of person. Most men are watching movies and media that shows women as kind of like the sexual accessory to a man, or, they're watching stuff like James Bond or whatever, where like he's just has all these hot women and stuff. And so once again, the movies that appeal to men tend to be movies and stuff that have featured the woman as being his accessory. So most men are actually very unknowledgeable. I don't know if I just made up a word. I just made up a word. They're unknowledgeable about women in general. And a lot of their things that they've been taught about women come from pornography. It comes from YouTube videos and TikTok videos from these podcasters and stuff like that. And so this causes the average man to be very emotionally unavailable by the time he gets into a marriage and by the time he has children. If a woman is silly enough to get with this guy. And also, have you ever noticed how whenever a girl says he's a good guy, what she really means is he's a good guy in comparison to other guys, because a lot of guys are, just such a dead weight to the point where if you meet a guy who is not as much of a dead weight as the other guys, people tend to pedestalize him. But whenever a woman says he's a good guy, notice how she's not saying he's a good guy in comparison to women and he can hold his own weight with women emotionally, intellectually, etc. No. She's just saying that, hey, compared to all of these other Dusties, he is what I would consider to be higher class or higher value. Because have you ever noticed how even on a lot of hypergamy content or femininity content, they will talk about the ethereal high value man. And then they will show pictures of like Lori Harvey and Marjorie Harvey. But it's like, okay, wait, Steve Harvey is supposed to be high value? Because Steve Harvey is the one who cheated on his wife. He left his wife when she was pregnant and stuff. And like, he was really horrible with money. He spent all of his money. He owed the IRS all of this money and stuff. He lied to Marjorie about his financial status, and then she married him, and then Marjorie found out, oh, actually, I don't got it like that. So it's like, wait a minute. Our standards of what a quote unquote high value man is, notice how they are nowhere near what the standards tend to be for what a high value woman is. A lot of times when we say a guy is a good guy, we're just comparing him to other guys who are bad quality, obviously. We're not actually holding him to real life standards, like in a practical sense, how would this guy behave as a life partner? Like, does he have money? Is he emotionally available? Would he make a good father? Is he good at conflict resolution? You know what? I need to make an episode about that. How a lot of guys, they don't even know what conflict resolution even is, or how to begin to resolve conflict in a healthy way. Most men who get into conflicts, what do? On average, they tend to be violent, or they tend to shut down, or they tend to, kind of ignore you or become silent, or just start lying and just get better at hiding things so that they can avoid the argument. A lot of guys are conflict avoidant. So it's not like they're going to sit here and talk through why they were flirting with the woman at work and how they plan to stop and what caused them to continue texting their ex and why they don't want to block her and why they want to keep on having her in his life. A lot of guys, they don't even have the emotional vocabulary to even begin to resolve a conflict. In order to resolve conflicts, you have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to understand how you're feeling, how the other person is feeling, why you are feeling the way you're feeling, why the other person is feeling the way that they are feeling. And a lot of guys do not think that deeply into emotions, but this gives them a huge disadvantage when it comes to conflict resolution. This causes men to sweep a lot of things under the rug, and this commonly happens in male friendships. They will get into a whole fight, punching each other and stuff, then they'll be like, oh, we're cool, bro. It doesn't mean that they are actually cool on an emotional level, because that's emotionally impossible for you to have a relationship that is basically abusive, like you are fighting each other and stuff, and then you just say it's cool. No, you are absolutely just sweeping things under the rug, and you are making a choice to move on and making a choice to tolerate abuse in your friendships. And so what do you think that guy is going to do when he gets in a relationship with a woman? He is going to most likely repeat those behaviors that he has been socialized to think are normal in his male friendships, such as violence in your friendship. And he's going to repeat that with you as a woman, or he's going to repeat that with your son when you guys have a kid. And then what is he going to do after that? He's going to say, oh, it's cool. Me and my friends, we used to punch each other all the time. We used to choke each other all the time. We used to body slam each other all the time. Or, we just got mad for a second and like, now I'm over it. And they don't understand what residual trauma is. They don't understand that what you do and how you behave, it can affect a person for years to come. And so a lot of men, this is why they get into these relationships and marriages where they are just, abuse is just normalized, whether it's emotional abuse and negging, kind of putting each other down. You know how men do this in their own friendships with each other. They are not nice to each other in general. The average guy will be competitive against his brothers. He'll be competitive against his friends, bragging about his money or how he's smarter than his friend or he's taller than his friend or whatever. So what do you think, why do you think these men get into these relationships and marriages competing with their wives and competing with women and then saying, well, I'm smarter, I'm better, this is my area of expertise, I am higher than you, I rank higher than you? Where do you think men get this behavior from? They got it from other men. Men are not even taught how to be good friends. A lot of men don't even know how to be good friends to other men, and they view a good friendship as, oh, we just punched each other in the face, but yeah, we just still hang out and stuff. So that's actually abuse. If you are violently, you're hurting someone and getting physically violent with them because you happen to have a moment of anger because you're mad at a basketball game or you're mad about a video game. So you throw the controller or you start cursing out your friend or saying he's worthless and a piece of trash. And you are taught in male circles that that's normal behavior. Oh, he was just mad for a second, like he's good. So this is exactly why those same men, they get into marriages or they have, they become husbands and fathers, and then they exhibit that same behavior with their wives. They exhibit that same behavior with their sons and with their daughters. A basketball game comes on, his team loses the basketball game. Now he's throwing plates and dishes, or he's slamming stuff, or he's yelling and cursing. And then you as the wife will be like, hey, can you quiet down? Can you not make that much noise in your man cave? And then he'll be like, no, because I'm angry. So a lot of men are socialized to the point where it's okay to express anger. It's okay no matter how you express your anger, that's fine. You can get violent, you can throw stuff, you can punch somebody, no big deal. That's just a part of being a man. And then when these men get around vulnerable people, like for example, if you are a wife or if you are living with a man, obviously you are vulnerable because he could overpower you, he could be violent with you. So when a lot of men get into these positions where others around them are vulnerable, such as their wives and children, they don't understand vulnerability. A lot of men are not even taught what the definition of vulnerability is, why it's important to be vulnerable emotionally, or how to interact with people who are in vulnerable situations. So this is why a lot of guys, they will still exhibit this behavior, almost this sociopath level of behavior, throwing stuff, being violent. When they want to discipline their sons, they will choke their son, they will punch their son, they will say that their son is a piece of crap. And then they will not understand why it's not okay to do that, because they'll be like, wait, but this is how I act in my friendships, but this is how I act around other guys on the basketball team or, on the football team, or when I'm at the sports bar, this is how the other guys behave. So have you ever noticed how a lot of the behaviors that are normalized for men are actually very toxic, abusive types of behaviors? And a lot of proving your manhood when you're growing up is knowing how to fight. A lot of times the first situation that a guy will encounter with another guy is bullying. So either that guy is the bully or that guy will be bullied by other men. And so men are taught from a very young age, the way that you express yourself and the way that you stand up for yourself and the way that you make your voice heard is via violence, or it's via negging and roasting people and putting people down. And so then these men will bring these behaviors into their interactions with women, and they'll start roasting their own girlfriends. They'll start roasting their own date and saying, you're a 6, you're not that pretty, oh, you're average at best, oh, you're actually fat, oh, I don't like you, you're not as pretty as XYZ other person. So they will bring all of these toxic behaviors into your life, and we are supposed to think that this is normal, and we're supposed to be fighting for these guys, and this is supposed to be a prize. To tie your life legally via a marriage contract to be with this guy. And by the way, have you even looked at what the marriage vows actually are? For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer? I know that I personally am not interested in really signing a contract saying that I'm guaranteed going to be with a guy when he is acting worse and when I am poor or when he causes us to be poor. Because remember what I said in another episode about how a lot of guys have bad coping mechanisms. So for a lot of guys, their coping mechanism will be to escape to their man cave, escape from the kids, escape from you. His coping mechanisms will be things like sex, because a lot of guys, sex, it releases dopamine and stuff like that. And so when he can't get sex from you, his girlfriend or wife, because, as a woman, obviously you're not going to want to sleep with a guy who is nagging you, roasting you, treating you bad, or being violent. So a lot of guys, they will turn to pornography and OnlyFans and stuff like that, because you don't have to put in any work or effort. You just have to pay a few dollars and stuff, and then boom, like you're good. And by the way, a part of the reason that OnlyFans is so popular is because you get to interact with the porn star. You get to have DMs with her or message her and stuff like that. And so a lot of guys, because they are so socially inept, and like I said earlier, how most guys' social interactions are only via the internet. Most guys don't even have conversations with women on a daily basis who are not members of their family. And that includes coworkers, because even at a job, unless that guy is asking a girl to go to lunch every day or something like that, even at a job, you're not really interacting like just you and her one-on-one the whole time. And, you're just having a healthy conversation where there's no sexual undertone. There are no hidden motives. No, most guys' interactions with women in general have hidden motives. Even when a guy is a little boy and he's interacting with his mother. Generally speaking, little boys, they learn how to manipulate their mothers, just like how children, they learn how to manipulate or be sweet and do what they have to do so that they can get their way. And so a lot of men, they spend their lives, they'll be manipulating their mothers. They learn to lie to their mothers and say, oh no, I wasn't at the girl's house. I was over at the library with my friends. So their interactions with women in general from childhood tend to be manipulative in nature, or, they're doing a lot of lying and stuff like that, sweeping a lot of things under the rug. They're telling a lot of half-truths, and then they get into these toxic male friendships where the men are like nagging each other, or one of the guys is a bully. Have you ever noticed how the term alpha male, it usually describes kind of this toxic masculine archetype where the guy is like a bully of other men and stuff. So a lot of little boys, they go through this as teenagers, and in their early 20s, they'll get around other men, and then those other men are being hyper competitive with him, kind of bullying him in order to establish their dominance. So what do you think this man is going to do when he wants to interact in the dating scene and interact in the marriage scene? That is absolutely what he's going to do. And this is why I say men want women way more than women want men. Men want marriage, relationships, sex, or any interaction with women that they can get, because men on average want to be the king of their own castle, and they want to have a servant. They want to have a woman who is his domestic servant. She's birthing as many children as he wants. She is, will have sex on demand, or even if she won't have sex on demand, she's going to be downstairs cooking dinner while he's in the man cave jacking off to other women and like messaging other women on OnlyFans, or talking to his ex on his Facebook account, or trying to send creepy texts to his coworker at work while she's downstairs cooking. So a lot of men they're socialized to be in these toxic emotional situations, and because they don't have the emotional vocabulary or the knowledge to understand, wait a minute, I'm depressed, wait a minute, I have PTSD, I have bipolar, I have all these different things, I have narcissistic personality disorder. Because they are not educated in that area, and they are not knowledgeable about psychology, sociology, and mental health, and also because of a lot of men's cheap nature, they don't want to go and get mental health care and pay for that. You know why? Because that's not valuable to them. What's valuable to him is something that can raise his status immediately, something that can raise his sexual market value immediately. So instead of putting $500 a month into all of these therapy appointments and medicines, he's going to put $500 a month into a car payment. He's going to be paying $1,000 a month on a car payment so that he can drive around in a Tesla, so that the hypergamy women, or the women who, they want, they're kind of impressed by a car and stuff, then, he can get their attention and stuff, and then manipulate those women, and then cheat on those women, and the cycle continues. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.